Namaskar, I'm Ashok Vyas, and I'm delighted to be welcoming someone who has passionately served our community. And it is not an easy thing that moving from one edge to another edge, that is born in East Harlem, but having completed his law degree from Harvard and been serving us as U.S. representative since 1998. Gregory Meeks joins me today. Welcome, sir. Namaste.
Namaste. Good to be with you.
And I also have the pleasure and honor of welcoming President of Xavier's Medical College Aruba, as well as past President of Rotary, and he is also known as a philanthropist, Ravi Buplapurji. Welcome. Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste.
Um, when we see each other, we feel good, and there is a sense of joy, and that brings smile. But at the back of our mind, we are still in the middle of the process of opening up. So, Congressman Gregory Meek, I would seek your first-hand analysis of when COVID 19 started unfolding to where we are now. You are satisfied with the journey that we have taken, or you would have liked to see it happen differently?
Well, of course, I would like to have seen it happen differently. Too many Americans, too many people have lost their lives, money, some of which I believe could have been saved. I think that we were slow on what the proper things to do. Just if you go back and look at some of the videotape, particularly of what was said by the President of the United States, he said that he had it under control. He said that it was going to magically go away. That he didn't believe that it was going to be as bad in the United States as in places. We didn't start. We started social distancing very late. We started focusing on wearing masks very late, and so we allowed the virus to spread much too fast. We were over impacted. I know in my congressional district, there was a time there for about a 2.5 week period of time. All of our hospitals was overrun. Remember, we didn't have enough PPE and respirators. I've never seen a time like that before. I think that some of it, had we been prepared, could have been avoided. No, I think that there's a lot that could have been done and should have been done much earlier to prevent the pandemic to spread as rapidly and as ferociously as it in fact did. I thank the governor of the state of New York, who, because there was no federal direction, there was no national direction on which way to go. I can recall when you talk about PPE, states was fighting against or competing against states to get their the PPEs, and of course, New York City was the epicenter of the coronavirus. But that being said, now we've come a long way. I think Governor Cuomo, by and large, had a lot of it right. He put together a program that, as you know, locking the city and the state down, telling folks mandatory stay at home unless you were an emergency worker or an essential worker, and then public transportation shut down. Having to wear a mask. He was about it every day, communicating the facts as he received them from the doctors and scientists, and didn't ignore what they said, as the president had done initially. He listened to what they said. And so we're at the point now, because back then, we were all real worried how long before we could even get to phase 1 of reopening. But because of the governor and because of the people of the state of New York listening by and large, we were able to go to phase 1 starting yesterday, and the number of deaths are down almost to single digits. The number of new people being hospitalized is minimal. Hospitals are back to what's the new normal, and so we'll keep our fingers crossed. We know that the virus is still out there. We still got to abide by the social distancing and making sure that you wear a mask and washing your hands on a consistent basis. We're learning more about this virus. Things still change as we learn more. So I'm hopeful that we'll get past phase 1 and we'll move on to phase 2 all the while we're trying to discover and find a vaccine that can be utilized so that we can then get back to normal. But I'll take a new normal of having individual social distance, wearing a mask, and to the degree that restaurants and other things are open on the outside with at 50% or 25% capacity, moving up to 50. That's progress. So I'll take the progress. So I think we are progressing along.
Wonderful. So I think you have been very deeply not just committed but involved and have seen how we are moving beyond phase one. I take your criticism of President Trump overall, the way nation responded to this threat. I think there could have been several different paths that we could have taken, and I also wholeheartedly agree with you. The leadership shown by governor, and he not just communicated on day-to-day basis in a systematic manner. There were some inspiring quotes, and you come across as a person who is philosophically also inclined to understand life. And then he also talked about flattening the curve. And so the more we know about the facts, the data tells us and guides us, it helps. Talking about the data, moving towards the other gentleman who is with us, who also, since is directly involved with medical services as president of Xavier School of Medicine at Aruba. Uh, if I seek your input, Raviji, on the way you have seen partnership between U.S. representatives like the Honorable Gregory Meeks sitting with us, and the communication, the bridge of understanding in terms of what actions need to be taken as a citizen, as an entrepreneur. How do you see the path that we took in terms of walking together? Should there have been some variation there?
Yeah, thank you, Ashok. And first of all, I had to congratulate Honorable Congressman. As he said, and we all knew, Epic Center was New York City, and the Epic Center was his constitution where he served, especially the hospital, Brooklyn Hospital and Wyckoff Hospital, and his staff, his office were stood by getting every single thing what the government needs from the government to the hospitals. So in my opinion, I think what has been done is good. It's a lesson learning for us. But going forward, as a strategic reserves, we need to have certain things in place because this is the largest borough and the highly dense population and the people live in this area. In terms of the businesses, a lot of businesses are affected. PPP came in and whatever it helped, but now we had to see that all the businesses are restored and doing their normal business other than going for bankruptcies and more livelihoods will be killed or the employments will be hurt. That's what I can look, and I seek Congressman's office and his support continually helping our community.
So, Congressman, before you respond to that, let me also add another dimension here, and then we come to business side, and that is from the common man's point of view. And in the situation, if there is a family member affected by COVID-19, and if he is, God forbid, in hospital, then one, you are not in a position to see him. That is the case even now. Two, it was quite a hassle for family members to get the body if unfortunately you have lost him. Is there something that can be done in this regard where maybe we have a little bit more human experience available for people who are already suffering? Your thoughts, you must have come across many people like that.
I did, and it's very unfortunate. Particularly, I had friends who lost their parents and could not get to see them other than by Zoom or FaceTime or something of that nature, because it did not want the spread. It was particularly concerned in senior nursing homes and senior living because the virus was spreading so fast and it was so dangerous. And hopefully we've learned from that so that we can try to make sure that that does not happen again. I know when we look at the number of PPE or the shortage of PPE, we should have had a stockpile, a national stockpile, from which I understood was being done prior to this current administration. And much of it was dismantled and not taken seriously under this current administration. That's something that we should always have because people were always afraid of some type of virus going around and making sure that we have the necessary equipment. So we've got to make sure that that happens right now, that we are looking and we're stockpiling and we're trying to make sure that we have some of our corporations, as took place with GM and Ford, who ended up pitching in to create some new respirators and masks and face guards and robes. We need all of those things. Many of our institutions still are running short some. I was talking to a few in my district. They said they're 2 to 3 weeks and they'll be out. So they've got to try to figure out where to get some more. So we've got to work together to make sure that that happens and we're prepared.
I just wanted to see if you care to share when the first stimulation package of $3 trillion was announced. How did the administration come up to that figure, and has that served the purpose with which it was announced with respect to sustaining economic growth?
Well, the first was not 3 trillion. The first CARES Act was $8 trillion, which was one of the largest stimulus that we've ever done. And I think that it did help substantially. It gave every adult who was making less than $100,000, $1,200 stipend. It also gave $500 for every child, other than one loophole that was included therein was those that were maybe a dependent child that went to college. It extended unemployment because we knew that a lot of individuals with jobs would be gone. So gave people unemployment plus $600, trying to keep as many people whole as possible up until, and earning about $65,000 a year. We created what's called the Payroll Protection Program to try to help the employers maintain whatever employees in their small businesses so that if they did that, then they would be able to turn the loans into a grant. And we did that real fast. And we found that some of it was successful and some of it needed some, a fixing. So like PPP, we found that it was not going out to all of the small businesses and that we thought that should have access to it. So when the second tranche of PPP money came out, we refocused on how it should be let out and made sure that some of the smaller banks, as opposed to the big banks, would be involved in there. So our small community businesses would have access to get the loans. They didn't need the $400,000 or $500,000 loans. We needed loans in the neighborhood of $80,000, $60,000. First tranche was the $400,000 or $500,000, not what we intended in Congress. We reduced it, and now we find that people are getting more access to it. In fact, I urge any small business, we included not-for-profits in that, if they still need money to help keep their employees on board, they should still money available in that program. You should go to your local bank and ask to apply. I think that's tremendously important. And so what we're doing now with the $3 trillion that was appropriated, which is part of the HEROES Act, we looked back and we looked to see what worked, what didn't work, and what we think that we're going to need as a country going forward. So the predictions back then was that maybe we would be all set by the end of May, the first part of June. That is not the case. And so now we're looking at it and we see that maybe the best way to do this so that we can get fully recovered, not just Wall Street, because Wall Street is one thing. I'm talking about Main Street now. It's going to take a little bit longer. It'll take maybe until the end of the year. So we need to change and extend some of the programs that we have put in place that's due to expire at the end of June and let them expire at the end of the year so that we can get our started economy coming back and make a difference from there.
Absolutely. And Raviji, you are closely connected with the education side indeed, as president of School of Medicine, there are some concerns of the students, and especially those who are residents. They have also been on the front line and have served at this hour of the need. And there were some references about helping them out with some way in the loans, student loans, or so. About this and any other thing that you consider is relevant from the point of view of students, medical students, and first responders as health workers. So, where you would like Congressman's attention, if I may.
I think Congress has already passed the student loan waiver, and only observation my in being in the education training of the students have been stopped because of the COVID, which is uh, they did the right thing. But only thing is a representation of a minority students in the medical education or healthcare and nationwide is less, and that need to be addressed. I'll separately talk to the congressman and on a different occasion. I'll meet him in DC and bring him up to the speed. I think there is a times, people were hesitant to go to certain areas, whether it's Elmhurst or Brooklyn. And now we saw the shortage of the healthcare people. So not only here, it could happen nationwide, in Chicago, I've seen in Baltimore and Atlanta. So I think we need a tremendous gap of the minorities representing in a medical education or healthcare. I think that need to be addressed in a different way. It had nothing to do with the stimulus bill or anything. But the loan waiver they already given, I think that is a good thing. I think it will be a good thing going forward.
Yeah, Congressman, you want to add something on this space?
No, I think that I basically agree with Doctor. We've got to work hard, and we're looking at it as members of Congress. I will say this, that on that issue, as well as all, the New York congressional delegation has been working very closely together to try to focus on it, and we appreciate the thoughts and the comments of experts like the doctor, and we'll make sure that we utilize it in our future deliberations.
Wonderful. And now moving towards the other important concerns about which also Governor of New York has also made another parallel conversation with his address every day regarding COVID-19, and that relates to the unfortunate killing. 25th June became a black day. So moving away from such incidents has been a concern of each and everyone, but the way things should move and the way the protests have unfolded, not just in the United States of America, but I would say in various parts of the world. So, how do you see this Black Lives Matter movement in with particular reference of what happened on 25th June?
Well, it's very important to me. I've lived this life as a Black man all of my life, and I've dealt with the problem of racism all of my life here in the United States, particularly as it pertains to treatment of police to the Black community. And to see time and again individuals who have been brutalized, and in this case, Mr. Floyd murdered at the hands of the police, shouting, "He can't breathe." We saw that in Staten Island, New York, with Eric Gardner. I've seen it when police officers have shot Amadou Diallo with over 40 bullets. Same with Sean Bell in my native Queens. So we've seen it over and over again. And that's disheartening and at times very angering to me. So I was very disheartened and angered about what I've seen too often during my lifetime. But I also have seen hope in this when I look in the streets and see the people that are demonstrating, young and old, Black, white, brown, yellow, and red, everybody, whether you're Asian, whether you're white, whether you're African American, whether you're Hispanic, whether you're Native American, everybody's out on the streets saying enough is enough. And we see the disparities in these communities. And it seems as though that finally the nation is hearing the cry of individuals that have been making this cry for a long time. So, you know, I'm a member of the Congressional Black Caucus, and we've been putting out budgets for all of the 22 years that I'm in Congress, talking about how we need to change policing and how we need to end certain disparities. We saw that in the healthcare business. And it seemed to have gone upon deaf ears. But now it seems as though the ears are listening and the eyes are seeing. So we came out yesterday with a very important bill that we brought out yesterday that we will be working on. And hopefully there'll be hearings on it this week, markup on it, and hopefully we'll vote on it within the next 2 weeks in the United States House of Representatives. So I come out, you know, still with anger at times, but with hope also that we're going to make a difference this time and try to change the course of this nation in regards to Black lives.
Absolutely. And Raviji, what is important is that everyone understands his her role as a part of the composite whole, society, nation, humanity. And in that context, you're being a part of education. Do you see there is some additional element which should be introduced? Because students would become doctors, students would become a part of the police force also. So anything that you can think of which might help us inculcate correct values among next generation?
I think the important thing is one is this minorities. We have seen how much has been affected. We also seen as being a minorities many times. But importantly, the thing is about the Black Lives Matter. If you see the crowd, young and every single color, race, or gender participating, this is the message for us. The tolerance, peaceful protest is important, as well as the inculcating in the bill what the congressman is doing most likely. How do we even educate even the police forces or the people who are with the force come and sometime to do the right thing, but we have to make sure how they're been trained properly.
Ravi,
Thank
sorry to
you.
interrupt you. I get the message that Congressman has to leave for another event. So before we let him go, I would just have him say final few words for our viewers.
Let me thank you for number one, for you having me. Let me thank your viewers for being here and contributing. As I said, your viewership has made America a greater country. The greatest experiment on the planet, I think, is the United States of America, because we have individuals of various ethnic backgrounds, various different religions, various different natural cultures, but we all come into one and to live as one. And our goal is to strive to make this a more perfect union. Our goal is to make sure that we do as the Pledge of Allegiance, liberty and justice for all. And just as I know that there's been prejudices and racism against African Americans, the same has been for my Asian friends, the same has been for some of my Hispanic friends, and the same has been for some of my Jewish friends, the same has been for some of my Muslim friends, the same has been for a number of my Hindu friends. It is time for us to all come together and say we're going to stop racism and hate in its track and live in a peaceful way and enjoy the differences among all of us, because that makes all of us a stronger and a better people.
Wonderful. I appreciate you joining us, and I feel like clapping with that passion of unifying everyone. I wish you all the success in your approach of making the world a better place. Once again, on behalf of myself, ITV Gold, and Ravi ji, I want to thank you for being a part of this conversation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Congressman. Namaste. I'll be in touch with your office. We'll look forward working, making a better, stronger our community in healthcare. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, as we say bye-bye to Congressman Gregory Meeks, I seek Raviji's thoughts on the way we are moving forward as one people in that direction, based on your experience of having worked in various fields and now working with politicians, doctors, academicians, what is the one lesson that you think you have learned, which you feel should be a part of everyone's experience to be the kind of ideal citizen which would help us move forward?
One is important thing we learned with COVID-19 is the patience. Second one is dealing with the mother nature, and most importantly, dealing with our surrounding as well as the policies and the procedures advised or the announced by the government to follow. That's the only reason everybody followed, and the flattening the curve and following those the guidelines. That is one. And secondly, we also now learned how do we be prepared in the eventualities in if it again reappears or certain things like this appears. How do we coexist with all the people on the planet, including our animals, including our mother nature, what I said earlier, and also the conservation of the resources what we have. It's electricity, water, supplies, at home supplies or the office supplies. Some of the things we almost forgot basics. Now we have to back to basics and follow those things. At the same time, keeping the health is a top priority for everyone. That's
Wonderful.
what I learned. And the important also respect the healthcare people who respond, whether it's in the situation like this or respect the first line responders, whether firefighters who attend to the fires or the people who attend to the things. That's all I can say.
Wonderful.
Respect.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I would like to repeat that patience definitely plays an important role, and it also helps us in appreciating others. So you are being respectful by being patient, and it also sustains a sense of inner harmony if you have that quality. And also, Raviji brought to our attention again the need to be sensitive to nature, being sensitive to nature, species of nature, and indeed being in a position to willingly work together, as he mentioned about the importance of coexistence. So, Raviji, thank you very much for those words of wisdom.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanking
Namaste.
Ravi Boplapurji, also thanking Congressman Gregory Meeks for joining us, but most important, thanking all of you for being a part of this conversation. This is Ashok Vyas.